Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a beautiful 4th November 2023. Coming up in this episode of the Canuck podcast, episode 246, CBC has failed. That's right, 600 plus layoffs coming, biased news and lame TV, plus other events to entertain you all. Listener and viewer discretion is advised because I do like to swear and smoke cigarettes. Stick around. Right back after this.
Hit it, sweetheart. Because I am hard, you will not like me.
Yes, sir.
There is no racial bigotry here. Here you are all equally worthless.
From Western Canada, this is the Crusty Canuck podcast, a Canadian veteran's point of view on political, social, economic issues and life. Here's Crusty.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 246 of the Crusty Up podcast. That's right, the CBC fail, of course. What else can you expect from them? If you like and hear what you see, please click like and subscribe and share this podcast all over your social media platforms. I'm your host, Crusty. Ladies and gentlemen, my apologies for not having an episode up on Saturday. I just got a little busy over the weekend, chilling out, trying to get things sorted out here. Chores, all that good stuff. Anyway, I'm back, and don't think for 1 minute that it will not have a Tuesday rant. I will have a Tuesday rant tomorrow. So carrying on with what the title card has said in regards, yes, the CBC has failed, of course. What else do you expect from Canada's major news corporation, right? What else do you expect from these guys? Now, I come from a time where the CBC actually had some decent programming, meaning that you can tune in on whatever night of the week, whatever you're into, and watch shows like Tommy Hunter if you're into country and western. He usually had some artists on there, up-and-comers, that kind of thing, and people would watch it. Or you could watch The Beachcombers on Sunday, a family entertainment show about a blue-collar guy by the name of Nick Adanidas, played by the ever-so-talented Bruno Gerussi. Rest your soul, sir. And it was just a family show, So there are a lot of choices out there at one time when you'd turn on the CBC and you'd watch your entertainment. I remember as far back as a kid, a little wee lad, watching the likes of Mr. Dress Up and Sesame Street and other kid shows that were on to entertain the youth of that day. Now you're kind of hard pressed to find a lot of that programming because all the programming we see for children right now that's on the mainstream or the legacy media channels is basically geared towards programming kids into being something they're not, right? And you can blame a lot of the wokeness, the trend of the whole lefty spectrums of things. You can also blame certain broadcasters and programmers and producers alike when it comes to what they put on the television. Now, as far as I know, the CBC receives anywhere from $1.2 to $1.6 billion a year from the Canadian taxpayer. So it's heavily subsidized by people like you, me, and other Canadians out there that work for a living and file their taxes every year. Oh, wow. And now they have to force or are being forced into laying off 600 to 700 people, especially an abundance of those individuals coming from the Belle Province in Quebec, CBC Radio, right? So that puts things in perspective, ladies and gentlemen. That puts a lot in perspective. The amount of money they're receiving from the taxpayers every year, subsidies, kickbacks, what have you. And now this new deal that was signed with Google that would be giving legacy media $100 million a year. So, all these legacy media crackpots can have something to hold on to get their fair share, as they say, the fair share. What exactly is the fair share of taxpayer dollars? That's something to think about, right? What is the fair share of anyone's money that doesn't belong to you? A fair share of what?
Absolutely nothing.
Exactly. Absolutely nothing. So now when I look at the CBC and I look at their record of what they have produced for people like you and me to watch on a regular basis, Hockey Night in Canada is gone, okay? Because I remember it was about 10 years ago where they had this big contest on creating the new Hockey Night in Canada theme because they didn't want to pay the licensing fees to the original writer of the Hockey Night in Canada. Dun 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 dun. Right? They didn't want to pay the original writer any additional fees for the rights to that tune. So let's have a big contest, spend oodles of money, taxpayer money, of course, and some advertising dollars to create a new theme song for Hockey Night in Canada. And how did that go over? These are the same people that also gave Don Cherry a real hard time for what he was doing, right? Always used to ride his ass. Now, regardless if you agree with Don Cherry or not, he made a point. He didn't pinpoint any certain race or any certain group of people. He just spoke his mind, and he was chastised heavily for that. And Ron McLean, which I used to have a lot of respect for when watching hockey, basically helped him get thrown under the bus too. So it's showing you the priorities of individuals in this country that are willing to go the maximum distance to save the CBC. Okay. So coming up later in the show, I'll have a special tribute to one of those individuals that's helping, the legacy media get their fair share in a special Canadian edition of the Canadian Polar Vortex of Bullshit. So stay tuned for that, ladies and gentlemen. But I think you all see my point. I mentioned one of my last episodes, too, that $129 million over 5 years would be going to legacy media. So therefore, they get some extra money from the taxpayers, plus the deal they reached with Google to advertise news on their websites. So everybody gets their fair share and cut of the pie, right? Yes, because you want to hurt any feelings of people that keep promoting irrelevant jobs. Okay? I remember the time when journalists actually cared about what they were doing, where they actually had integrity and actually had the gall and the balls to stand by what they said. How many times have we seen all these redacted comments? How many times have we seen journalists not take responsibility for what they said and always come across as victims, always come across as, people being bullied? The CBC had a little segment on there about a week ago where they're calling Pierre Poilievre the intellectual bully. How do you be an intellectual bully? To me, bullying is somebody who's trying to force their will on you and take things from you and harm you and just harass you. Okay? Doesn't take a lot of great intellect to do that, however, right? But I find it doesn't matter what politician stands up to a reporter, there is always that rebuttal. And it doesn't matter where you sit on the fence, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't matter where you sit in the political spectrum. Okay? It matters what is this person saying and what's this journalist doing about it. Is this journalist taking it upon his or her to actually write a proper article or do a proper report, whether they type on a keyboard, an old-fashioned typewriter, or pen and pencil, and actually on paper, and then formulate what they're going to write? Right? We're not seeing that. We're not seeing that integrity. So when you look at this card here, CBC Fails, 600 layoffs, biased news, lame TV. Yeah, big time. And you know why? You know why they are failing. Okay. People are getting turned off with the lies. People are getting turned off the rhetoric. People are getting turned off with the biased approaches to every aspect of our lives in this country. You know what? It serves them right. It might give them a lesson, and it might actually show them proper integrity and intestinal fortitude and actually tell people the truth. Oh, but who am I? Eh?
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
And that's right. You're back at episode 246 of the Crusty Canuck podcast. CBC Fail, 600 layoffs, biased news, and lame TV. I'm your host, Crusty Canuck. And if you like and hear what you see, please click like and subscribe and share this content all over your social media platforms too. Help this Canuck get the algorithm going to benefit other Canucks too who want to get their work out there as well. And please click like and comment if you can too. Whether you see me on Rumble, YouTube, or anywhere else you see this podcast, please comment. I'm trying to add more podcasts to my Facebook page too. Keep you all updated as I go along with that as well. But please do not forget to comment, because every time you make a comment, the powers that be looking and going, oh, okay, this guy or this gal is getting some traction. So it helps the Canadian algorithm going. Helps a lot of us out to get this on the go. So please do not hesitate to comment or say a kind word or say a bad word. I don't mind too. But the moment you become bigoted or racist, you're deleted. Anyway, carrying with this episode 246. So yes, CBC has failed too. Now I got an article here from the fine people at the Deep Dive. Yes. So I'll cue this up and I can read along for you. And this is actually dated today, from this morning, actually, too. So I'll just cue this up for you. So we'll have a good little read along. Wouldn't that would be fine, kids? Yeah, wouldn't that be a great time? Oh, yes, yes, of course. Yes, yes, big time. And I'll just get this queued up for your viewing and listening pleasure, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, no, it's wrong. Wrong button. Wrong button. Here we go. That's right. It's interesting how there's so many people making this big stink about, oh my God, the CBC. And it's like, well, like I said, it's going to smarten people up. You would think, right? Now, so let's read this here. So this is from the fine people at the Deep Dive digital outlet. As far as I know, it's Canadian. I don't know. But it's a pretty good story. So CBC Radio Canada could be laying off 700 jobs. Like I said, 600 to 700 jobs. So CBC Radio Canada employees are on the edge as they prepare for a virtual meeting scheduled on Monday with CEO Catherine Tate. Now, for the record, my listeners out there, Catherine Tate's the CEO of CBC in this country, and she doesn't even live in Canada. She lives in New York City. Anyway, aimed at addressing the financial challenges, quote unquote, the public broadcaster is currently grappling with. The meeting is expected to shed light on potential cuts that may affect the workforce. Several sources have hinted at the possibility of significant layoffs, estimating the number to be between 600 and 700 employees nationwide. Both CBC and Radio Canada are anticipated to be affected, with Quebec alone facing potential elimination of over 300 positions. Right? And now there's a little tweet here from somebody by Stefan Ottenbright. Breaking: CBC Radio Canada employees will have a virtual meeting on Monday with CEO Catherine Tate. Between 600 and 700 employees are expected to be laid off across the country, 300 just in Quebec. So much for a Merry Christmas, eh? Well, guess what? Our federal government has done nothing but screw with Canadians and their Christmas. So I'm not too worried about a handful of CBC employees. In email circulated to all employees on November 29th, Tate expressed her intention to give an update on the financial challenges and take stock of what is coming in the coming months. The senior management of CBC Radio Canada, however, declined to comment on the upcoming meeting at this time. The Union of Radio Canada Workers has yet to respond to requests for an interview, adding to the uncertainty surrounding the situation. This development follows Tate's previous announcement in November, where she acknowledged the need for difficult efforts to trim the public broadcaster's spending by $100 million over the next 3 years. Well, why? Why is that, Miss Catherine Tate? The CBC receives anywhere from $1.2 to $1.6 billion, and you can't spend $100 million. I guess those perks of those legacy reporters and inside jobbers have more priority, right? Anyway, I'll keep this sweet. At that time, Tate did not rule out the possibility of resorting to job cuts. In October, a meeting with employees had already signaled a hiring freeze. These potential job cuts come against the backdrop of a challenging period for the media industry in Canada and in Quebec. In November, Quebec Corps disclosed plans to eliminate 500 positions within Group TVA, or to my French friends, TVA. As part of the broader reorganization early in the fall, Metro Media ceased operations, and this summer, Bell Canada shuttered several radio stations and cut 1,300 seats due to revenue losses. As of 1st of April this year, 2023, CBC Radio Canada employed 7,960 positions, full-time equivalents across the country, making the looming layoffs a significant and potentially impactful event. Well, so that's self-explanatory. That really is, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll leave this link in my description for you all to follow too. Don't hesitate to click onto that one and read it for yourself. And self-explanatory, folks, right? Too big to fail, right? That's the image we're taught when it comes to the CBC. Doesn't matter if it's radio, doesn't matter if it's television, or those really, really bad TV movies used to throw down our faces back in the 90s. Now, sure, some of my veteran buddies can verify some of those. The CBC made a TV movie called Peacekeepers. Let's just say it was bloody fucking awful, right? So, and even back in the 90s, the CBC was getting quite the hefty funding from the federal government, i.e. the taxpayer. So you'd think they'd actually take the time to make a proper movie or a proper miniseries or a proper TV show. In 2005, when Doctor Who came back on the air, now my Doctor Who fans out there, the CBC actually had a part in that too, in developing it, right? And then somewhere along the line, it just fizzled. It just died out. I don't know what happened, right? Because I remember seeing the credits and you'd seeing assisted by the CBC. Oh, wow, great. That's kind of cool. Had people thinking, oh, gee, is the CBC actually get involved in science fiction, actually make a Canadian version of something, or import or create its own sci-fi? Who knows? The possibilities are there, ladies and gentlemen. When you look at broadcasting in this country, are you seeing really good quality? Right? Last night I was sitting with my wife. We're watching CTV, just skimming the channels. And the only major shows I see advertised on CTV is a half-assed sitcom. I forget the name of My Life with Kids, or Everything Kids Ruin Everything, which was a short-lived. It's only on maybe 13 weeks tops. And then this ripoff called The Trader, right? Another reality-based TV show. So with all the money that these big channels are getting, how come they cannot promote a good sitcom? And I mean a good few sitcoms, not just one or two or a token one here. I'm talking a constant barrage of it. How come every network in this country cannot produce, let's say, 2 or 3 sitcoms, 2 or 3 dramas, and actually have a season that lasts longer than 10 or 13 weeks, right? Now, I've heard people say, oh, we don't have the money. Sure you do. Sure you do. Because every 3 major networks gets Canadian kickbacks from the taxpayer, not just the CBC. So it puts a lot in perspective, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to what the people want to see in this country, not to mention the bureaucrats that are backing it up, like the CRTC, those goddamn pirates.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
And as I mentioned, ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 246, CBC Fail, 600 Layoffs, Biased News, and Lame TV. I'm your host, Crusty Canuck. And just remind you, too, if you like and hear what you see, please click like and subscribe and share this podcast all over your social media platforms, too. I don't care who you share it with. Share it far and wide. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up and give me a comment or 2 or 3 or 4. And encourage your friends to comment or 2 or 3 or 4. Anyway, carrying on this episode. So without me ranting and railing on more about the CBC, we've all seen what's happened, especially since around, I would say, maybe 2013, 2014, when Justin Trudeau was gaining some traction, getting his popularity with the Liberal Party, and then he was elected. So, of course, more money goes to these guys to promote his brand of liberalism, to make him look like a real darling. Oh, like he really cares. And it's been proven time and time again how he doesn't care. And it's been proven time and time again on shows like The National, okay, that CBC holds on to, CBC News Channel. They constantly promote the biased. They don't get to the facts, their hardware. They don't get to the real root of the story. They'd rather write a story about some kid who is transitioning into a leprechaun, rather than actually talk about how politicians are screwing us in this country. Huh? That's basically it. How else do you do it? I can maybe name 2 shows that I've seen on the CBC briefly. I actually, no, I can't. I'm sorry, I cannot, because I don't watch the garbage anymore. Right? So with all that money they're making, with all that taxpayer incentive that they're receiving, you would think they would sit and develop some better TV shows, or better curriculums, or better programming. Hire real producers that care about what they're doing. Okay? Instead of worrying about the diversity model and the inclusion model, how about you include people that really give a fuck about what they care about, and really give a fuck about what they want to put out there for people to watch? You want to save the milk, you got to cut some of the cream. That's the way it is. You want to save your milk, you got to cut some of the cream. But this brings me to the point and a favorite part of some of my fans of the show. Right? Well, I'll have to cue it up. Anyway, right back after this.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
And that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the favorite part of some of my fans there, too, as promised earlier. On this week's segment of
the Canadian Polar Vortex of Bullshit.
That's right. This episode segment of the Canadian Polar Vortex of Bullshit is going to a very, 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 very special politician. Yes, one of the many politicians out there in this country that have claimed victimhood, claimed oppression, claimed unfairness, claimed inequality, and yet she fails to realize that she makes roughly $250,000 a year at the expense of the Canadian taxpayer, plus other perks and privileges to go with it. Is it Miss Chrystia Freeland? Is it? No. Is it the previous minister, Catherine McKenna? No. Anyway, this episode's recipient and winner of the Canadian Polar Vortex of Bullshit Award goes to none other than, wait for it, Miss Pascale Saint-Onge. That's right, madame. Take a bow. Well done. Yes. The Honorable Pascale Saint-Onge, Minister of Canadian Heritage, represents the riding of Brome-Missisquoi. Miss Pascale Saint-Onge was elected a member of Parliament in 2021, and she did a lot of work for La Belle Province in their National Assembly. And she claims to be a champion for equity, democracy, and social justice with a strong track and leadership focused on implementing effective and concrete solutions to complex issues. Yes, of course. Now, the other day she was in Parliament, and Miss Thomas, a Conservative MP, more or less asked her politely to answer a question in English rather than French. And there was a really, really big uproar about language and diversity and inequality and language rights in this country. And I watched that segment. And the way I look at it, I used to speak a bit of French. I'm out of practice. But if someone asked me to do both at one time, I had the ability to do both. And it wasn't a big deal. So, Miss Pascale, please tell me, how do you feel about winning this prestigious award?
I'm so happy I could just shit.
Really? Well, well done for you. Is there anything else you care to add to this, your speech? I need a little more emphasis for my listeners out there.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I have an infection in my ear.
Well, plus the gurgling that you're having there too. Anyway, is there anything else you want to add? Or are you just happy to win something actually based on merit rather than just expectation?
Join the Liberal Party of Canada. We'll tell you what to think, what to do, how to wipe, how to pick your nose. Oh, the name of safety.
Okay, well, that being said, we don't really need a heritage minister telling us how to be safe. Now, I know you're tickled pink because, Google is going to give $100 million to Legacy Me in this country. So it must make you feel really good as the heritage minister, even though technically you're not protecting Canadian heritage. You're just protecting certain interest groups. Am I right? Am I right there, madam? Am I right? Yes, of course. So, and just before, just in case you decide that you want to claim and promote sexism, saying I'm being sexist, misogynist, I'm just basically calling you on your BS. You understand how that works? Okay. Well, once again, madam, congratulations for your winning the prestigious award. And you're up there with many politicians that really, really don't deserve a place in Parliament because you constantly promote the professional victimhood. And really, madam, it is sickening. Anyhow, this has been another segment of
The Canadian Polar Vortex of Bullshit.
Congratulations once again, Miss Saint-Onge, for being unqualified and for acting like a professional victim for no real reason at all, just to gain brownie points for subpar effort. Right back after this.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
And welcome back to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Crusty Canuck, and this is episode 246 of the show. That's right. CBC Fails, 600 layoffs, biased news, and lame TV. So, how do we make this better, ladies and gentlemen? How are we going to make our TV shows better? We can actually write in or solicit producers. And to my fellow screenwriters out there, write some great episodes, write some great TV, write some catchy dramas, write some historical dramas, write some comedies, write some historical comedies. Who knows? It's been tried before, and there have been many good shows that used to be on the CBC, used to be on Global, used to be on CTV at one time. But why can't we do that now? Oh, because of streaming services, or because of budget cuts, or what do you mean budget cuts? You can't use the streaming services and budget cuts as excuse anymore. Like I said at one point in the show, you got to cut the cream to save the milk. So who's sitting on top of all these conglomerates? Who's sitting on top? A lot of bureaucrats, a lot of appointed officials. Cut them aside. Okay. Let the blue collar know-how prevail again. Right? It's that simple. Let the blue collar people decide. Considering it's blue collar money that pays for these TV shows, that pays for all these new casters that get their makeup done and their hair and their nails and get some nice suits, right? Whether they have Versace bags or not, like Mr. Yagmeet Singh, right? Why can't we do that? Why can't we do that? Why can't we go from there? But no. I guess common sense does not prevail with some of these individuals because the CBC is trying to hold on for dear life. That's what happens when you live in the past, too. Anyway, one of my fans from a while ago, she actually wrote this in her on her Facebook page there, too. I'll just quote it. I don't really have her permission, but I'll just say it anyway, because it really struck a nerve with me, a good nerve, that is. So facing a $125 million budget shortfall, CBC is cutting 600 or 700 current union and non-union jobs, while 200 vacant positions will also be eliminated on top of that. The public broadcaster blames budget issues on the rising production costs, declining television advertising revenue, and fierce competition from the digital giants. Now, this is what happens when you refuse to evolve with the times. So well done, Lisa, for writing that. And that's the thing. They're not evolving with the times. They're not creating good programming. They're not promoting good programming. They're so worried about the ESG or the DIE model. Okay. Diversity made this country what it is. There's nothing wrong with diversity. But when you keep emphasizing diversity every time you put a TV show on, you're missing from the story. What if the story doesn't call for it? What if the scene doesn't call for it? Okay. You're trying to control people's minds. You're trying to manipulate the system. That's what it is, ladies and gentlemen. It has nothing to do with race or gender or giving certain people a chance. You got to give all people a chance. If they got something that's catchy and something that can work, good, well done. Make that happen, right? That way you don't have to sit and act like a professional victim like Miss Pascal Saint-Onge, who spends more time worrying about being insulted than actually looking after Canadian heritage, okay? Miss Saint-Onge, Canadian heritage means all of Canada, not just a few parts of Quebec and a few parts of Ontario towards people that agree with you. You have to represent Canada. You're in a ministerial position, okay? And what you should be worrying about is letting Canadian content get out there and thrive and progress as it should, not to the way your bosses say it should, but it should be to what the creators say it should be. And you just basically sit back and observe and keep your hands out of our wallets. It's that simple. And I want to say a special condolences to April Wine there. They lost their lead singer there yesterday or today, Miles Goodwin. I wasn't a giant fan of April Wine, but they're one of the many Canadian rock bands that grew in the 70s and thrived in the 80s. And my condolences to his family. They actually put out some decent music. They have a good, one hell of a library out there for a lot of people that enjoyed 70s and early 80s rock. So my condolences to the family and friends of Miles Goodwin. And also my condolences out there to the family and friends of Geordie Walker, guitarist for one of my favorite alternative bands, Killing Joke. Apparently he passed away due to a stroke there last week. So my sincerest condolences to the band, Killing Joke, Jazz Coleman, Youth, and to Mr. Paul Ferguson, and to the family and friends of Geordie Walker, too. be sadly missed. Killing Joke made some great music. Some of their songs really pulled me through some tough times growing up. But, things happen, and that's life. So my condolences to both the families of those two fine artists, guitar players, and innovators of music for the 20th century. Anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, I have been Crusty Canuck on this beautiful 4th November, 2023. Once again, I apologize for not getting a show out earlier. However, nothing's changed. It'll be this episode, and tomorrow night, I'll be putting out a Tuesday rant again, too, so I'll find something else to bitch about. But once again, thank you out there. The people have downloaded my show, especially my American friends, and I'm seeing a few more from the Philippines and Singapore, too, and another couple of Australians. So give yourselves a round of applause. You guys are awesome. Everyone who listens to my show and downloads my show, you're all awesome. Thank you for taking that chance and giving me that promotion. I appreciate that. Gratuitously, I do appreciate it. Anyhow, like I said, I've been Crusty Canuck on this beautiful 4th November, 2023. Weather is changing out there. We are in the not November, it's December. Fuck, why am I keep saying November? It's December. Duh. Anyhow, it's the Christmas season is coming. Maybe I'm getting a little too excited for my own good. But needless to say, it's December 4th, 2023, ladies and gentlemen. And I wish nothing but good things for you all out there. And stay tuned for tomorrow when I do a Tuesday rant. Do what you can to help you out in these trying times. Ladies and gentlemen, give a little bit to the food bank if you can. I'm not saying you have to, but if you have a little extra, please do what you can to help those less fortunate. And just try to be good to each other in the next 24 hours until my next episode. Then you'll have my permission to be cruel. No, just kidding. Do your best to be good to each other at all times. And like I always say, ladies and gentlemen, humanity and merit wins the day. And I'll see you all tomorrow night for a Tuesday rant. Bye for now.
Hit it, sweetheart. Because I am hard, you will not like me. Yes, sir. There is no racial bigotry here. Here you are all equally worthless.
This has been another episode of the Crusty Canuck podcast. Stay sane and thank you for listening. From Western Canada, this is the Crusty Canuck podcast.
Mama thinks I'm special.